Welcome to the Highly Sensitive and Strong podcast. I'm Daphne Lee, a former anxiety sufferer turned holistic anxiety coach, mindfulness teacher, mom, and guide for highly sensitive people. Anxiety was part of my life for as long as I can remember, and as a teenager, I was hospitalized for anxiety, panic disorder, and agoraphobia. Since then, I've learned to transform those challenges into strengths, and now I help people like you calm their nervous systems and live in a way that truly honors you. Each week, I'll share honest conversations, insights, and practical tools to help you heal anxiety in your body and mind so you can thrive as your highly sensitive and strong self. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. Hello, friend. Have you ever noticed that some experiences seem to stay with you long after they've ended? Maybe someone said something hurtful a few days ago, and part of you is still turning it over. Maybe a difficult conversation is technically finished, but you keep coming back to it in your mind. Or you might have made a mistake, received some criticism, or went through a disappointment, and even though you've told yourself to move on, something inside you still feels engaged with it. Maybe the most frustrating part is that you're aware of it. You know it's over. You know you don't want to keep thinking about it, and yet something in your system just doesn't seem ready to release it. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. And if you're highly sensitive, there's actually a very good reason for it. So today we're going to explore why a sensitive nervous system often stays engaged with experiences longer than we want it to. Why just let it go is rarely as helpful as it sounds, and what your nervous system may actually need in order to move forward. Because sometimes what we call not letting go is really the nervous system trying to find resolution, safety, or certainty in something that still feels unfinished. One of the things I've noticed over the years is that we often talk about letting go as though it's simply a decision we make, as though one day we wake up and choose to be done with something and then it's gone. But most of us know from experience that it doesn't really work that way. If it did, we would have done it already. It's kind of like when someone tells you that you just need to relax or not worry about something when you're feeling anxious. It's not helpful and it doesn't change how you feel. In my experience, letting go isn't something the mind does on its own. It's something the nervous system does. And sometimes the nervous system takes longer than we'd like, particularly when something felt meaningful, painful, uncertain, or emotionally significant to us. The mind may understand that something is over, but the nervous system may still be in the middle of processing it, and those are two very different things. One of the defining characteristics of highly sensitive people is our depth of processing. We don't just notice more, we often stay with what we've noticed longer. We reflect, we consider different perspectives, we revisit experiences, and we look for meaning and try to understand what happened and why. This is actually a strength. It's part of what makes sensitive people thoughtful, compassionate, insightful, and self aware. But it also means that experiences don't always move through us quickly. A comment that someone else has forgotten by lunchtime may still be echoing in our awareness days later, not because we're obsessive or because something's wrong with us, but because our nervous systems are designed to process deeply. And that depth of processing comes with a timeline that doesn't always match the one we'd prefer. One way I think about this is through the idea of unfinished loops. Sometimes something happens and the nervous system doesn't experience a clear resolution. It could be a conversation that feels incomplete, a conflict that remains unresolved, a loss that doesn't have a clean ending, or a decision that still feels uncertain. And when that happens, part of the nervous system keeps checking, scanning, and revisiting the situation because it's looking for completion. It's still asking, am I safe now? Is this finished? Can I relax? And when there isn't a clear answer, the nervous system may keep circling, not because we're choosing to stay stuck, but because some part of us is still trying to make the unknown feel knowable. This often shows up as overthinking and rumination, which is something we explored in our last episode. But underneath it is almost always a nervous system that hasn't fully settled yet, one that is still working through something it hasn't been able to complete. Something else worth understanding here is that stress isn't just a mental experience, it's very physical. When something activates us emotionally, our bodies respond. Our heart rate changes, muscles tighten, breathing shifts, and stress hormones are released into the bloodstream. Sometimes the stressful event ends before the body has even had the chance to fully process that activation. Think about if you've ever had a near miss while driving. The experience may be over very quickly in real life, but your heart is still pounding because part of the nervous system is still carrying that physiological response. And this example is something that can actually resolve quite quickly because it has a clear ending and you know you're okay. But many things in life don't have such a clear resolution, which can make us feel really stuck. And this is one of the reasons why things like movement, rest, crying, laughing, creative expression, spending time in nature, or having meaningful connection can be so genuinely helpful when we're struggling to let something go, because all of these things can help the body complete the stress cycle in a way that the mind alone simply cannot do because the body speaks body language. So we can't think our way through a physiological process because the body needs its own pathway to completion. Something I've noticed while I've been recovering from being sick recently was how much easier it was for old worries and unresolved concerns to resurface when I was tired and run down. My body had less energy, my nervous system had less capacity, and things I thought I had already worked through suddenly felt much closer to the surface again. And it made me feel really vulnerable and emotional. My first reaction was to think something was wrong, that I was going backwards somehow. But then I recognized what was actually happening. My system wasn't asking me to solve those things again. It was just asking for care, for rest and gentleness. And I think many sensitive people have this experience where what looks like not letting go is actually a nervous system that needs more support, not more effort. So the next time you find yourself unable to let something go, I'd like to invite you to try asking a different question than the one you might normally ask. Instead of, why can't I get over this? Try asking, is my nervous system still engaged with this? And notice how different those two questions feel. The first one tends to create shame and frustration, and the second one creates more curiosity and a little more compassion for yourself. And from that place of curiosity, you might follow up with, what would help me feel more supported right now? The answer will be different for everyone, and it may even be different for you depending on the day. Maybe you need movement. You need to go for a walk or stretch or anything that helps the body discharge what it's been holding. Maybe you need rest, not the kind where you're lying down while your mind keeps running, but genuine restoration. I love to do yoga nidra practices when I need time for real restoration. Maybe journaling would help, or having a conversation with someone you trust, or spending time outside in nature might be really nourishing. Maybe what's most needed is simply acknowledging that what happened mattered to you, because sometimes we rush past that part and the nervous system won't settle until it feels genuinely heard. Not everything needs to be fixed or resolved in the way the mind wants to resolve things. Sometimes our experiences simply need to be felt, honored, and given enough time and support to move through naturally. Highly sensitive people often stay engaged with experiences longer than they'd like, not because they're doing something wrong, but because their nervous systems process deeply. The situation may be over, but the nervous system may still be completing its own process on its own timeline and in its own way. When we understand that, something shifts. We can stop fighting ourselves. We can stop demanding immediate closure or criticizing ourselves for not being over it yet. And we can begin offering ourselves something more useful than pressure. We can offer the support, patience, and compassion that healing actually requires. And maybe letting go doesn't always mean that everything feels resolved. Maybe sometimes letting go begins when we stop demanding certainty from something that remains unfinished and instead learn how to come home to ourselves with more tenderness and trust. In our next episode, we're going to do something a little different. I'll be guiding you through a practice designed to help you feel more grounded when life feels heavy, because understanding your nervous system matters deeply. And sometimes what we need most is simply an opportunity to pause, breathe, and reconnect with ourselves, especially when we've been carrying a lot, whether that weight comes from our own lives, the people we care about, or simply living in a world that asks a great deal of sensitive nervous systems. So we'll explore that together next time. And in the meantime, if you would like support practicing nervous system tools within a caring community, I'll include information about my Rooted Resilience membership circle in the episode description. And if you've been finding these conversations helpful, please consider rating, reviewing, or following the podcast. It means a lot, and it helps these conversations reach more people who may need them. Take good care of yourself. You are sensitive, you are strong, and your nervous system deserves the time and support it needs to heal. I'll see you next time.